Joining for the first time, the PropTech Collective is a not-for-profit organization aimed at strengthening the PropTech community in Canada by bridging the information, diversity, and knowledge gap between real estate and technology industries. Through our platform, we aim to create opportunities for emerging and diverse leaders across the real estate and technology sectors. To date, we've been able to organize over 20 events, bringing together over 1,500 guests to learn and network. We'd also like to extend a special thank you to our amazing committee of volunteers and our program partners for their financial and in-kind support. So jumping into today's logistics, for today's event, we'll start with a short introduction on the real estate and PropTech industries, and then move into an exciting presentation on next-gen talents, insights, attracting top talent, as well as onboarding tactics and strategies. To follow the presentation, we brought together an expert panel to contribute to the discussion on the importance of attracting and engaging next-gen talent and their diverse perspectives. We'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so please use the chat to share your questions and comments throughout our session. Our panel will help answer your questions and provide tips on hiring next-gen talent from different angles. As a brief introduction of our guests, we have Julia Chellaru, a co-founder of the PropTech Collective and a venture growth advisor at Venture Lab, is joining us from Toronto today. We also have Kat Wong, who is the director of marketing at Perch, a rapidly scaling Toronto-based PropTech company. Tammy Kim Newman is a talent tech specialist with the University of Waterloo. And we also have Zan Winterton joining us from the US and is the managing director of North America for LMRE. At this time, I'd like to pass it off to Julia to get us started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session. Just let me switch. I'm doing the technical stuff here as well. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. I just wanted to start off with the PropTech industry overview to help set the context for the conversation we're going to have. So Happy New Year, everyone. I will be zooming through the next couple of slides to help frame the current state of the PropTech industry. And we'll share these slides and recording with the attendees afterwards as well. So don't feel like you have to frantically be taking notes. But yeah, starting off with a definition of property technology, it's also known as PropTech or real estate technology. And it's essentially the application of technology across all segments of the real estate industry, from planning and construction to managing assets. PropTech's rapid growth attracted a record-breaking amount of venture capital in 2021. Private investment into the sector hit $32 billion this year, which is a 28% increase from 2020. So it's a maturing sector and market. Canada also has a growing PropTech ecosystem that is attracting top talent from real estate and tech companies. Our country has really become a hotspot for PropTech innovation because we have the right mix of institutions within the real estate industry, educated talent, and government support for innovation and immigration. So in our 2021 PropTech in Canada report, we found that there were over 300 real estate technology startups in Canada, with over 55% of them located in Ontario alone. And this is growing each year. You can download our report, but essentially you'll see that we've mapped out the entire industry, and new technologies are essentially being applied specifically to property and bringing changes to all aspects of real estate, from commercial, residential, construction, building management, investment, and data collection as well. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved. As I mentioned before, this information is from our PropTech in Canada report, which lives on our website. So please go download it if you'd like to get an in-depth understanding of the industry in Canada. Moving on to the future of work in PropTech and real estate, really, I wanted to drive a key point that learning and having a career isn't a linear path like it might have been in the past. It's actually an intricate journey full of twists, turns, and exciting opportunities. So if there's one overarching skill new talent entering the industry needs to have, is to learn how to learn quickly as this industry continues to evolve. And to find out the areas of high growth in PropTech, really follow the investment dollars. But all talent should know that PropTech related job opportunities are available across startups, mature companies, venture capital firms, and associations as well. So these slides outline some of the benefits of joining these organizations, as well as who are some of the key players. And there are essentially, as I said before, lots of opportunities to get involved. So we're excited to have you all here to learn more about it. And in terms of the demand of the types of roles, outside of the traditional HR operations and finance roles, there's a lot of breadth. You can definitely find a role that suits your interest and skill set. What's important to note as a candidate is to follow your curiosity as you learn about this industry. So again, start with the PropTech in Canada report, but do the self-work necessary to understand where you fit best as well. And network by joining associations or volunteer, for example, PropTech Collective, to meet more people and learn about new opportunities. So because of its growth, employers are really faced with a challenge to attract top talents to match the demand and their growth. So I'd like to pass it over now to Tammy to share her amazing insights into how to attract next-gen talent, as well as onboarding tactics and strategies. Thank you.
Hi, Julia, thank you so much. And hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. My name is Tammy Kim-Newman. I am a business developer and tech talent specialist with the University of Waterloo. And I've been working with cooperative education for over the last decade. And I've been thrilled to help both small and large companies with their talent management strategies. So today I look forward to just reviewing next-gen talent insights with you, how to attract top talent, and how to onboard new hires. So at the University of Waterloo, we operate the world's largest co-op program, which consists of over 25,000 students enrolled in over 120 programs. So I can promise that whatever business needs you have, there's an academic program at Waterloo where students are enrolled that are also looking for industry experience. And due to our large size, we're very fortunate to be home to the WorkLearn Institute, which is the only research institute in the world dedicated to studying cooperative education and work integrated learning, and that transition from school to work. So they have excellent research findings, which I'm going to share with you today. So we surveyed over 600 students and employers on their perceptions and values that matter to them. And so if we look at table A, we have the students' values. So they indicate that the most important one to them is benevolence. So benevolence means caring about those around them. So their friends, their colleagues, kind of the community surrounding them. But when we look over to table C on the right and where employers perceive next-gen talent to value benevolence, they put it much further down in the list. So there might be some stereotypes or misunderstandings about how caring this next generation really is. When we look at table B and what employers are saying they value most, they're indicating it's self-direction. So, managing oneself and working independently. And the good news is when you look at both what the students value, they also value self-direction as well and having that autonomy. And when you look at table C and where employers perceive next-gen talent to value self-directions, it's also within the top three. So that's good that it's consistent, especially in this growing remote environment. What's interesting is when we look, if we just go back for a second, Julia, we look at table C and what employers are perceiving this next generation to care about most, they actually indicate it's hedonism. So just for the clarification of definition, hedonism is, having fun, enjoying what you do. So, imagine like the foosball, the free lunches at work, things like that. And so they think that students care about this most, and they're not totally off base. It's within the top three for the next generation of talent when you look at table A. So this creates a really interesting recruitment challenge for companies because on one hand, you have to articulate a fun work environment, but then you also have to articulate benevolence and having social impact and social good. So one tip I have is if you're a small or large company and you're fortunate enough to have volunteer days or volunteer activities, or strong ESG initiatives, please, share those on social media because that's more likely where next-gen talent is going to see that, and then start to associate that with your brand. Next slide, please. So we also surveyed employer perceptions and student perceptions in terms of what are the motivators at work for this next generation of talent. So what's really interesting is the employers are correctly articulating half of the perceptions that this next generation are motivated by. So they are indicating, that they recognize next-gen talent are motivated by enjoying what they do, developing friendships at work, and having a positive impact on society. So that's great that employers are recognizing students kind of are motivated by this at work, and it kind of ties back to those values on the previous slide. When we look at what the student motivators are in terms of, solving complex problems, discovering their potential in the workplace and that job stability, that's completely missing in terms of what companies are perceiving this next generation to care about. And so you have to ask yourself, if companies are not thinking that this next generation of talent wants to solve complex problems, what type of work are they being assigned? So if your new hires, whether they're co-ops or maybe new grads, if they're being given menial or repetitive tasks and that's all they're being assigned, there's a good chance they're going to leave your organization prematurely. And what's alarming is companies might misattribute that to other aspects. They might think, okay, well, we think they care most about the flexible hours, so then let's give them more part-time opportunities, or they care about having fun, so let's get a second foosball table or more pizza lunches, and they haven't really drilled down to the actual issue itself. So one tip I have to companies listening right now is, if you're fortunate enough to structure your job roles this way, is assigning your new hires some sort of project to work on, because a lot of times you can give a candidate a specialized project that will solve an actual business need or challenge, and it'll draw your candidates out into the organization. It'll force them often to work cross-functionally with sales or marketing or engineering. And as they do this, they will actually start to discover their potential in the workplace. And then they might meet more experienced employees and start to see the job stability within the company or within the actual industry itself. So hopefully that's a good takeaway for the listeners. And if we go to the next slide, we surveyed students on, if they were given an opportunity to work somewhere that aligned with their skill sets, but not their actual values, would they take that opportunity? And we found that 50% would not. So just imagine, for all the people on the call that are, recruiting new hires, imagine if half of your energy was wasted. Think of all the lost time and money and resources. So this is why it's really important to understand this next generation and what they value, and ensuring that that's embedded throughout your entire hiring process. So now that we've given some background on how to understand this next generation, how do you attract them to your organization? So if we go to the next slide, our WorkLearn Institute analyzed over 37,000 job postings on our internal job portal system, Waterloo Works, over a 3-year period of time. And we found that job postings that had these 6 themes, so company culture, programming, food and games, employer values, compensation, and career development. If they had text related to these 6 themes, they had higher job applications. And so we're going to take a closer look at one of these themes on the next slide. So when we look at employer values, we find the keywords related to this theme are around the resources available to students, the abilities to lead and to have an impact within the company. And so if we go to the next slide, we have 2 job postings that we've kind of scrubbed of identifying information. And so I'll actually start with job B on the bottom. So I think what's really good about this job posting and how they articulated their values is they made it very clear to candidates. They value honesty and integrity, respect, having fun. And you can tell that there's some caring attributes in there in terms of the impact they want to have on their community. And they had a high number of applications, 127. Now, when you look at the job posting above, job A, they had more than double the number of applications. And so let's look at some of the verbiage they're using. You are valued, respected, and heard. We strive to help you make an impact from day one. And we're going to support you with the tools and resources so you can succeed, essentially. So they've done a really nice job of sort of going beyond what we value as a company, but also to say, this is how we're going to help you succeed. And I think that language really comes through the screen and really showcases that they are investing in their hires and they're going to do everything they can to help them grow in their career. So I think that might have led to the slight difference in application numbers. And so if we go to the next slide, we have a sample job posting that had over 700 applications from the tech industry. And so I wanted to highlight this one in particular because, a lot of the listeners on this call, you may be competing for the same candidates as this, mysterious company as well. And so I just wanted to maybe showcase potentially what you're up against in terms of how other companies are competing for this talent. So look at the language they're using, the best place you've ever worked, the power to create, share ideas, a force for good in the world, make a difference, have fun, global impact. We need leaders like you to join us. I think all of us want to work somewhere like that. And so when I think about some of the previous research we shared with you in terms of the values and the motivators, they've really done a good job tying that language into this job posting. They're saying directly, you're going to have fun. So there's that kind of hedonistic aspect. But then the benevolence that we know is critical and most important to next generation of talent. They're saying make a difference, be a force for good in the world, have a global impact. So wherever possible, think of what your company mission is. And I know it won't be exactly the same as this posting, but there's probably some data or language around the impact that you're having as a company, and really tie that into your job posting so that students can feel like they're going to make a difference if they come work for you. And so if we go to the next slide, we've talked about how to understand next gen, how to attract them. Now we want to talk about how do you get them started at work? How do you onboard them? So if we go to the next slide, we know that research has shown that spending some time on onboarding practices will lead to increased organizational performance and commitment. And so we really were curious to find out during this remote work environment where we've all kind of switched to this online world, has this impacted this relationship? And we did find that there is a significant relationship between the amount of time a company spends on the onboarding and welcoming kind of processes and activities, and how that impacts performance and commitment. And so we wanted to share some of the tactics with you. So on the next slide, we looked at over 1,000 student responses of different company sizes and some of their onboarding strategies to make them feel welcomed into the company. And so when you look at the first two, a personalized welcome from the manager, uninterrupted one-on-one time with the manager and new hire, it's great to see that across the board, whether you're a smaller business or startup to some of those large firms, that this is consistently being done across the board, which is fantastic. On the flip side, you could also say, well, there's roughly 20% of new hires that are unfortunately not getting that simple and easy welcome. So this is something that, if you're not already doing as a business, it's such a small activity, send like a quick email introducing and welcoming your new hire. So, we want to hit that 100% mark. And we want to showcase that. You can see with the range of activities on the slide, it can depend on the size of your company for some of them. So for example, with an online orientation program, it makes sense that it would be a lot easier for a larger corporation to facilitate because they have a dedicated team that can help execute that. And so on the next slide, we've kind of broken down 4 categories of rough tactics that you can use to onboard your new hire, whether you're a 2-person team or 1,000+ firm. So welcome messages. So like I said, sending just an email message welcoming your new hire, whether it's again a student or a new grad or a full-time hire that's more experienced, just letting them know, the rest of the team members, introducing them, on a team-wide distribution, basically, We also encourage you to create an onboarding calendar with some scheduled meetings. So again, that one-on-one time with the actual supervisor or manager to get to know them, to talk about expectations, but also building in some set times for task-specific training as well. So if you're going to have to teach your new hire, spend 30 minutes on learning a new tool or system that the company uses, build that into the calendar and sort of don't leave it up to the candidate to kind of have to figure that out for themselves. Just kind of set it up within the first 2 weeks. Introductory sessions. So if you're at a larger company and you're hiring multiple roles at the same time, you might do a company-wide orientation. And so definitely include a new talent as well at the co-op level into those orientation sessions as well. If you're a much smaller startup or business and you're not doing a formal orientation program, it could be as simple as just 20 or 30-minute coffee chats with some of the other team members within the company that a student may not always get to interact with. So for example, on our team, we typically hire 3 students a term, and we encourage them to book, a 30-minute call with everybody in our team just to get to know them so that they feel more comfortable. If they do need help in the future, if we do have to collaborate on a project together, they already have some familiarity with us. And resources. So it might sound very simple, but even a contact list with email addresses and phone numbers are the best way to kind of get in touch with people in this remote environment. In the physical office, if you needed to follow up with someone, you could maybe just walk over a couple of desk stations and just tap them on the shoulder. But nowadays, how do you reach out to people? So really sharing and making it easy for new hires to understand how they can get in touch with people and sharing any important links to resources within the company that they'll need access to. And so now I think that was the final slide for the onboarding. So hopefully after this, you've kind of gotten a well-rounded overview of how to understand this next generation, how to track them, and how to onboard them. And now I'll pass it over to Maria Antonovsky, who will be our moderator for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy. That was a lot of information in such a short period of time, and I thought it was so great. So we've heard about what the company should do with respect to onboarding and also selecting next gen talent. But I just want to take it a step back. And sorry, I was going to jump right into the questions, but I want to reintroduce the panel to everybody. We did introduce them a little bit earlier in our earlier segment, but just to let you know who everyone is on our panel again today. We have Kat Wong, that's with Perch, which is a rapidly scaling Toronto-based prop tech company. Tammy, who you just heard from, tech talent specialist from the University of Waterloo, and Zan Winterton from LMRE, which is a recruitment firm for prop tech and real estate. So just want to thank you guys again for joining today. And then I'll just jump into that question I was starting to do right now. So what I was going to say was, so we've talked about, the hiring process and, what we're looking for from tech talent, and next gen tech talent. But before jumping into that, and this question is going to be for you, Tammy. So universities and colleges have long taught a number of real estate courses, from diplomas to degrees, but as technology transforms the industry, it has become a real concern that the tech is not filtering down into the educational establishments, the vast majority of which continue to follow very traditional syllabuses and promote very traditional roles as those for students to aspire to. So my question to you is that, what are universities and colleges doing to train students to be ready for the industry today?
Thanks, Maria. That's a great question. So I say, first off, I think if universities or colleges are providing a co-op or work integrated learning program, that's going to be part of the answer. So for example, I think like you said, we've gone beyond the time where a student can do maybe a 4 or 5 year degree, not have any traditional work experience, and then try to enter industry, because that industry has moved on in that 4 or 5 year period while students are going through their education period. So by doing a co-op program like at Waterloo, our students are getting up to 6 work terms of paid industry work experience, and they're graduating with up to 2 years of full-time work experience. And so they are learning as the industry is growing simultaneously. They are running on the treadmill just with all of us as well. And I've seen students be in companies as mergers and acquisitions are happening, like they are seeing these changes live. And I think that's so invaluable. I would say there's other things, of course, that the universities can do to prep our students. So we do career readiness workshops and courses, of course, to make sure they're industry ready. But I think we also have to pay a close eye on what's happening in industry and pivot really quickly. So for example, back in March 2020, when we were all kind of struck with the onset of the pandemic, we had thousands of students that were scheduled out for that summer co-op term. And we said, what are we going to do? And so we knew that small businesses were going to be impacted, startups were going to be impacted. So we partnered with some industry leaders and we launched free digital skills fundamentals. So these were free courses to any student at Waterloo, and it taught them about digital marketing, video marketing, sales, e-commerce, and that really positioned them to then make an impact and help those smaller businesses out. So I think we have to be kind of agile as much as we can at the institutional level as well, and keep an eye on those things. But I would also say how we're trying to help students for industry is also by working with employers, because I think this is a partnership. It is a talent ecosystem. So for any of our employers that hire, we give them a dedicated service team. So we know if you're a 2-person startup, you maybe have never hired someone before. So we're going to be there to help walk you through that process. And if you're, a 2,000 plus company, well, your talent strategy is going to be very different, and we're going to help you through that. So I think we really just have to partner together to support these this next generation of talent as they come through their education system.
That is amazing. I really like that programming, and hopefully a lot of the other universities are doing that as well. So that leads me to my next question, which is to Kat. Perch is a scaling prop tech startup, and you've used this internship program through the University of Waterloo. Can you tell us a little bit more of why you decided to launch on an internship program and what your experience is with working with Gen Z employees?
Absolutely. Thanks, Maria. So in terms of what Tammy just talked about, a lot of startups are competing with those larger organizations that have those larger budgets. We found that having that paid internship program allowed us to build an early talent pipeline. So we all know that internships are low risk opportunities for students and for new grads to try out a company, but it's vice versa, especially when the students are starting out in their career. We found that they're often a lot more willing to apply for roles with the companies that they might not necessarily be as familiar with. So, as Tammy mentioned earlier, that next generation of talent, they're all really focused on, you want to do meaningful work, you want to make a difference. And so we find that they're a lot more open-minded sometimes with applying for jobs with these startups that they haven't heard of. The other piece that I wanted to talk about too was that with that extended interview, it really lets startups offer those full-time roles to students well before they graduate. So it kind of gives those startups that edge. You get to lock in that in-demand talent earlier, as opposed to waiting until on-campus recruitment, waiting until that student is finished their 4 or 5 year program. We're able to get those full-time job offers. And so it's a win-win really for both the company, but also for the student, because it's a great feeling for for students who are still in the program to know that when they finish their university degree, they'll already have a job waiting, ready, and a supportive employer as well. But in terms of your question around, what has our experience been? The internship program has been a big success for us. We've been really fortunate to secure some of our best Gen Z talent that way, including a number of designers as well as some developers.
That's amazing. And I think it's a great idea for students just coming out of school to go to a startup, because they'll be able to do all aspects of the business. I think that, sometimes when they're going to a larger organization, they kind of get lost in the shuffle, and, they get given menial tasks, which, these kids want to solve problems. They want to, get into the meat of things. So I think that, going to a startup is one of the best things university graduates can do. So I'm just going to shift gears a little bit. So students are a great talent pool, but as Tammy mentioned, we have a lot of emerging talent immigrating to Canada, plus people from other industries that have an increased appetite to switch sort of fields and then move to like real estate or prop tech industry. So my next question is for Zan. You work with a plethora of real estate PropTech firms across North America. From a recruiting firm's perspective, what criteria are you looking for when talking to candidates who are looking to transition into real estate PropTech industries? And how can employers stand out to build awareness for their companies?
That's a good question. I think the criteria we're looking for naturally depends on the position. So within sales, we're looking for a track record of success, someone that's hitting KPIs, they're competitive, but not necessarily a lone wolf. I think for an entry-level position, you might not necessarily have that experience to fall back on, but those sorts of things can be drawn from, your college, sports, extracurricular activities that you've been involved in. I think when we look for positions like account management or customer success, we're looking for high EQ, an inquisitive nature with an interest in solving problems and working with people. I think from an entry-level perspective, the ability to work in a team, have you been involved in project management or coursework, volunteering? These are all skills and experiences that are picked up by employers, especially the ones that we're working with. I think to the second point, from the branding perspective, for employers, it's, building awareness isn't easy, especially if you're a small prop tech or startup. And equally, if you're a large real estate firm that's been around for 50 years, it can be difficult to attract, the younger talent. I think that it's so important these days to have a strong social media presence if you're wanting to attract young talent. We know that Gen Z are very active on social media. I'm not saying go and set up a TikTok channel to help recruit. Not that I would know how to do that, but I think that it's important to be sharing videos of people in the team, social events, team meets. These are all things that our candidates are analyzing. And it can go a long way to give insight into what the culture of the company is like, what the values are, and why people should be joining, which we know, as Tammy previously said, those are intrinsic to kind of why people are, joining certain companies.
So just to add a little bit to that, so for those that are wanting to change industries, there's a lot of fear of changing industry. Also, if you're like in a, more senior level position. So what are companies taking into account? Are they actually looking at those pieces from the people, or are you having to take a step back if you're changing the industry? Like, what are you seeing?
I think that, it's an interesting question. There are times when people do have to take a step back. I actually had a conversation with someone just earlier who has been working in the real estate realm, actually, across construction, a little bit in technology, BIM technology actually, and is looking to get into the VC space, specifically within PropTech. Now, his background isn't, within the financial sector. It isn't within the VC space. So there is an element that if you look at him from a candidate perspective, he's going to come up against lots of other people that have got, VC experience, or they've worked in private equity. So you have to be realistic in kind of what your approach is going to be and at what level you're going to go into. So for some people, they will have to, take a dip down. But I think that there are a lot of translatable skills, going from adjacent industries like fintech into the property technology sector. So it is on a case-by-case basis. I just think that you have to make sure that you're telling the right story to those employers.
Super helpful. Thank you so much, Sam. Tammy, as you mentioned in your presentation, you've analyzed hundreds, if not thousands, of job descriptions and how those roles have been filled. Can you tell us a little bit more about the role job descriptions play in attracting the right candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we know that's going to be your first impression with the next generation of talent, with the candidates. So we shared kind of those 6 themes, and encouraging the usage of words related to those 6 themes. If I had to make it even more simple for easy takeaways leaving this call, I would just encourage companies to be even more explicit, so really make it clear to candidates what they are going to gain by coming to your company. So what are they going to gain in terms of skill sets developed, in terms of networking, professional growth, impact that they're going to have. I think, traditionally job postings have been used to say, this is what you're going to do for us at a company. It's very, employer centric, let's say. And I think we now are moving towards, no, it's more competitive now. Employers really do have to be candidate centric and say, this is what we're going to do for you. Yes, we have to tell you what the job is and those duties, but really trying to sell, what are we doing to invest in you as a potential hire at our company.
Thank you. So our 2021 PropTech in Canada report shows that 67% of PropTech companies launched after 2014, and more than 60% of those companies are seed or pre-seed stage. So Kat, as an early stage startup, how are you thinking about growing your team without a lot of budget, and how are you going to attract talent across all seniority levels?
Yeah, it's a timely question. Perch closed our seed round late last year. Surprisingly, we've actually been able to make several key hires from actual users of our product. These conversations initially started because we'd have users who took the time to give us detailed feedback or propose a new feature idea for our team. So I encourage you, if you're part of a company and you're struggling to hire good talent, consider hiring from your most engaged users. Work with your customer research team or your marketing team, whichever department is, I guess, frontline facing, and talking to customers and getting real feedback from them. You don't want to overlook a candidate pool that already truly believes in your company and your product. You've already won them over. So, that's half the battle right there. And going back to the importance of paid co-ops and internships, and Tammy, I know, has a ton of information about this. So there are a lot of federal and government grants that are specifically there to help startups and growing companies promote hiring, whether it's new grads or interns specifically. Look into programs like the Summer Work Experience program. We've been able to take advantage of a lot of grants to speed up our hiring timelines. And then lastly, we also encourage our employees to stay involved and visible in their respective communities. So, if you're the director of engineering, stay involved in a lot of developer groups. PropTech Collective, it's a perfect example of a really successful community that you can use to meet others from your industry and network, talk about some of your hiring challenges and how you've overcome those challenges. And then lastly, we think it's really important to stay committed to salary transparency. It helps speed up the hiring process in the sense that you get to skip a lot of that back and forth negotiation. The applicants already know this is exactly what they're applying for. They know what the job salary range is. It clears up a lot of the mystery around before they actually submit their application.
That's definitely a great perspective. So would you say that you're more salary or benefits heavy as a company?
We're definitely more salary heavy. We think it's important to give people that base, the ability to plan for their futures, but also part of our benefits include equity as well for every full-time employee, because we want people to have skin in the game.
Awesome, thank you. Zan, this next question is for you. So for real estate companies looking to stay competitive in this space, they might not even know the roles that they should be hiring for. From your perspective, what are the job opportunities today in real estate and in PropTech? What are some of the new roles that you're hiring for? And what advice can you give to companies that kind of don't know what direction they should be going in? Because I think it also depends on, if you're an owner or a client or a third party property manager. I think that there's different perspectives for that. So can you share your insights on that?
Yeah, so I think, we had an interesting discussion with Lane last year at PropTech based out of Canada. And this actually came from conversations with a number of their clients, so owners and landlords. And that was once the technology had been purchased, who ultimately manages the platform, delivers the reports, feeds that back to the C-suite. And I imagine this is a similar sort of question that is posed by a number of startups, or at least comes up in that buying process. I guess what's tricky is that a lot of the real estate technology being sold to these real estate firms, it doesn't necessarily sit with IT, doesn't necessarily sit within marketing or the real estate team. And as a result of that problem, I think we'll see that being a growth area in years to come, where someone will lead point on owning these platforms, whether it's a digital solutions expert, real estate technology manager, because people are ultimately going to want to get the most out of their technology solutions. To your last point, I think advice we're seeing, and I think that the market in general is seeing a lot of owners and operators, real estate firms, they're either trying to figure out if they should be purchasing everything under the sun, or they should be developing their own technology in-house. And so you are seeing people come up in innovation roles to actually provide a level of consultancy back to the C-suite to make a decision as to whether they should be building in-house or purchasing. And I think, we haven't seen which way's correct or not correct. Some companies have been able to create great technology. Other companies have probably struggled because, you need a big engineering team to make a lot of this. So I think the jury's still out on that. But,
Yes.
Those are areas that people are definitely focusing on.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that because, there's a lot of solutions out there for problems that companies don't have. So I think that that's a whole other segment that we can work on maybe later this year and finding out what the right solutions are for your company, right? Because there's so many of them out there and, where do you even start? So yeah, definitely agree with you on that point. The next thing I want to talk about is, sort of advice from our panel experts. So I have a couple more questions, and then would love to open up the floor to any questions that our participants might have. So Tammy, what practical advice and steps would you suggest for students looking to enter the real estate prop tech industry?
Yeah, well, I think you shared, or Julia shared at the beginning of the presentation, that amazing, map and a lot of great reports and data that's available on the PropTech Collective website. So I think that would be the first thing I would point students towards. And I think I'd also encourage students to be really open-minded, right? Because, they can find whatever their dream job is. It exists within the prop tech industry. They don't have to necessarily go to maybe the more safe or standard industries or companies. There's so much potential within prop tech itself. It's such a hot market right now. And I would encourage them, like I think Kat discussed, there's a lot of opportunities to give back in a startup company. And I think students are craving that kind of impact. So that would be the advice I would give them.
Excellent, thank you. Kat, as an employer, onboarding new talent is a critical piece to help them hit the ground running. What practical advice do you have for the companies to ensure a smooth onboarding experience, especially in this remote and hybrid world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common topic that comes up in speaking to other HR reps from similar growing startups, where it's a catch-22. One, you need to grow fast. You're trying to hire the right talent. You want to get them on board as quickly as possible. But it's also really time consuming to build out a proper employee onboarding program and fill out all that content that your new hires need to hit the ground running. So one of the ways that we do it, we've got an in-house wiki. We use Notion, but you can use really any platform that works for your company to create a cheat sheet. So that way people already know, here are the people I need to go to if I want to book vacation. Here's the process for how to book sick days. We find sometimes new hires aren't always comfortable asking. They don't want to bother their hiring manager with a whole bunch of little questions. So having that wiki that's always accessible and having that cheat sheet that they can easily reference, that saved a lot of time. We also try and schedule team socials shortly after we hire. That way, it's not just you're meeting your colleagues in a formal setting, but you also get some time, especially because we're a fully remote company, you get some time to interact with your coworkers in an informal way as well. And then lastly, I think Tammy had this in her slides earlier, we really make sure that all the new hires have that opportunity to meet as many people as possible within not just their department, but cross-functionally as well. So we make sure that all of our new hires get that one-on-one time with our CEO. It's really important for them to understand what the company vision is. And we also don't leave it up to the new hire to just set up their own sessions. We try and facilitate that, again, because everyone's got a different comfort level around reaching out to maybe a VP or a senior executive in the company to have that one-on-one.
I think that's amazing. I think that that's something that kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes with the larger companies. So once again, startups are a great place for next gen talent to start, their careers. I can't emphasize that enough. I think it's so great. And I have a 20-year-old too, who I'm encouraging to work with a startup as well. Doesn't matter what industry he's going to go into. I just think that being in a startup, you'll learn so many aspects of a business that you'll know what you like and dislike. And you'll have the support that you need right out of the gate, right? So thank you for that. I have one more question for Zan, and then we have a question from our participants. So Zan, what practical advice steps would you suggest for candidates from outside the industry to enter? And how do you tackle those common fears of why people may not want to change the industry?
Yeah, I think the first step, which is really important, is to do your research on the prop tech industry. The companies that you're interested in, the VC community. I think you want to have a level of understanding before you jump into an interview process, and also you want to know what you're interested in and what doesn't interest you. I think following that, once that you've got that interview, in-depth research into the company you're interviewing for, the competitive landscape, the value proposition, the founders, I think there's nothing worse than hearing a candidate response to the question, why are you interested in this company or the real estate tech market? Oh, because it's cool and it's growing fast. Great. Go join Amazon or somewhere else. There's lots of growth in other areas. So I think you need to have a good solid answer to that, and an honest one. I think to the latter parts, fear often comes from the unknown, or perhaps the risk associated with change. I came from the cybersecurity industry before moving into PropTech, so I know that with that risk, it can be scary. I think to alleviate that, speaking to people in the industry that have made that jump or are currently in there, joining something like the PropTech Collective to get some more of that information, I think is super important. But ultimately, as Julia referred to, there is so much growth in this sector. You should look at it from an opportunity standpoint. So, real estate, one of the I guess last asset classes to really be revolutionized by technology. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to join early stage, seed stage companies and make a real impact on an industry that hasn't seen change over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. So I think that should be seen as an opportunity rather than be scared of the fact.
I agree 100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're looking to change the industry, you should talk to those that have done it or that are in the industry that can help you. And definitely preparing for the interviews is key. You shouldn't be going into interviews just flying off the handle, with couple word answers, and you're not going to stand out clearly. So yeah, thank you for that. Excuse me. So I'm going to take it to the audience now, to our participants. And we have a question from Joey. Hi, Joey. Thanks for your question. So Joey's from Toronto, and the question is for Tammy. So what is the awareness level of working in the PropTech industry among Gen Z? And is there interest in the space or any student misconceptions you've come across?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Joey, for that question. I would say as this PropTech industry grows in popularity and awareness, that is translating over to this next generation of talent as well. So I can confidently say we have had students already work within the PropTech industry, like at Perch and other companies as well. So I think it is growing. And we've also seen research that says that Gen Z actually cares more about the housing market than potentially even millennials. And so I think they are very invested in, both from a personal standpoint and professional standpoint, what are the opportunities? How is this going to impact them on both a micro and macro level? So I think it's something that there is some awareness. I think there's always room for improvement. And that's why, I'm so honored to partner with PropTech today, because I think the companies are doing a great job. We need to coach them on how to position themselves, because that'll help grow word of mouth. But I think there's always opportunities to promote within the student population as well. So I haven't really come across any misconceptions yet. I think it's just more them understanding the exciting opportunities within the industry. So I think there's so much potential.
Excellent. Thank you. So hoping that answers your question, Joey. If you have a follow-up, feel free to drop it in or just unmute yourself. Would love to hear some more. Is there anyone else that has any questions for our panelists today? Don't be shy. Okay, I think it looks like that is it. And we are finishing 10 minutes early, so those of you can go and grab a quick lunch before you start your next meeting. I want to thank all our panelists for joining today. I think it was an excellent session. This will be sent out to everybody. Julia, correct me if I'm wrong, and then any additional information. If you do think of questions, feel free to send them to the PropTech Collective, and we'll put it out to our panelists and respond to you directly. And I appreciate those of you taking time today to join our session, and hopefully we'll see you for our next session, which is going to be, I believe, is it February 10th, Julia? And I don't have the title with me, just if you want to let us know what the name of that next session is and see if there's interest for those to join next time around. I don't know if she's muted.
I am muted. Sorry. No, that's my fault. No, so on February the 10th, we'll have our next event, which is an exciting conversation. It's going to be a panel discussion, essentially featuring 3 development PropTech startups who will be pitching, or at least talking to some potential customers from the real estate side as well. So we'll have industry specialists on board, as well as some exciting prop tech companies as well. So really looking forward. Just make sure you go on our website and you'll be able to register there as well. So thank you, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you once again, everyone, and have yourselves a great day. Once again, Happy New Year.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.